welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with CBD. I'm your host, That CBD Girl, and this is episode 10. And as a courtesy disclaimer, please note that the FDA does not test or approve CBD for medical use, and statements made on this podcast are not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any illness or disease. The information I discuss today is based on my own experience with CBD and people and my own personal research. Wow. So a lot has happened since I last recorded a podcast, guys. First off, the spread of the COVID virus definitely has us all shook, and I know that's in many different ways. I can't help but feel like coming into 2020, there was tons of positivity and everyone was ready to take what was theirs. And, you know, it started out weird. There was the tragic loss of Kobe, rest in peace, which was crazy. Am I right? Very sad loss. And then COVID hit, which has thrown us all for a loop. I've had to make some adjustments for myself, and owning a small business, it has definitely been a little bit scary. But I have trust in God and the universe, and I know in my heart that it's going to be okay in the end. We're all in this together, and I feel like this is a cleansing of the earth, and I have a lot of other beliefs and opinions, but we won't go there. So, what have I been doing during this COVID time? I have remained very busy creating, making, doing all my normal things and trying to keep a routine for the most part, but it's been hard. I'm not going to lie. And one of the things I've been working on, though, I'm really excited to announce, is a blog will be coming soon. It's thatcbdgirlpodcast.com, and it'll help follow up with these episodes for those of you who maybe like to read instead of listen. Plus, I've always felt like I'm a better writer than I am a talker, so stay tuned for that. Today, I wanted to talk about anxiety because, you can use CBD to help anxiety, so I want to talk about it because I've been having it, and I've heard so many of you saying you have it. Plus, so many people have been asking me about it, so I'm going to talk about it. First off, I'd just like to say, anxiety sucks. Am I right? Can I get an amen over there? Anxiety is horrible, and I tend to experience it on a daily basis, especially with the spread of the COVID virus. Mine has definitely increased, but I'm able to maintain the anxious feelings with a super cool product called CBD. Have you heard of it? Well, I use CBD from Quartz Trading Co. Exciting news. The whole site is 30% off right now. Plus, for listening to this podcast, you guys are going to get an additional 10% off code at the end. So listen to the whole thing. If you're unsure if you even have anxiety, here are some symptoms. My palms are sweaty. My knees weak. Arms are heavy. There's vomit. Oh, I'm just kidding. That's Eminem. But seriously though, if you're shaky, nervous, feeling panicked, or just having the feeling of doom, trembling, sweating, trouble sleeping, inability to control the feelings of worry or stomach aches, that's a big one I have. Those are all signs of anxiety. Most of you have probably felt one or all of these symptoms at one point or another in your lifetime. But did you know that there are types of anxiety disorders? Well, according to the World Health Organization, 1 in 13 people are affected by these types of disorders, and they are very real. This can really affect a person's way of living. And for those of you listening that experience this daily, I just want to give you my love. I wish we were allowed to hug right now because I would hug you all. Stupid COVID. There's many things that can cause anxiety. These can include underlying medical conditions like pain, intestinal issues, bowel issues, etc. But they could also be caused by trauma, stress, drugs and alcohol use, personality type, or mental health disorders. And if you're concerned about your well-being due to your symptoms of anxiety, it is always recommended to talk to a medical professional. The tips that I'm about to give to you are not intended to cure any of these underlying issues that may be causing your anxiety. It is to help calm the feelings of anxiety and hopefully prevent you from having the symptoms so often. And I'll be honest, I don't think I truly understood anxiety until I was about 23 years old and knew somebody directly that had it. And this person, they suffered from an anxiety disorder. I just had never seen it before to this extent, so it was really eye-opening for me. And the only thing the doctor was able to do was give them a pill and recommend therapy. And I'm not dissing that. Medicine can definitely help people, and depending on how long the person has experienced anxiety, it could be needed. But one of the purposes of anxiety medicine, or the main purpose really, is to rebalance your brain and calm your nerves. And unfortunately, with medicine comes side effects. So if you've listened to episode 1 or 4, you've heard me talk about homeostasis. And that's the body's ability to remain balanced when there are environmental changes. So I explained how CBD, cannabidiol, helps the body maintain homeostasis. And in episode 4, I discussed how to use CBD per the condition you have. So give that a listen if you haven't already, because there's a lot of good tips in there. But today we will dive deep in CBD for anxiety, because that seems to be pretty relevant for now. So what can CBD do for anxiety? Because CBD, it is being used, and it does have a really high effective rate and offset the oncoming feelings of anxiety by calming the central nervous system and keeping your body in homeostasis. But even though CBD doesn't get you high, it can have adverse effects for some. If you listen to these tips that I'm about to give you to make sure that you use the right type of CBD for you and use it the right way, then this should help. First, you want to decide what is the best product form of CBD for anxiety. There are 3 that I have here today. Those are edibles, which CBD can be put in any food. If you haven't noticed that around, it's literally in everything. Also, when you do it this way, it inhibits your bioavailability, which is the amount your body is able to absorb, because you lose some of the CBD to your intestines while your body's digesting. It's not the most effective way to use CBD for anxiety, but it can help. And it should be noted that the FDA has deemed food items as illegal. So if you're purchasing edibles, you should be doing this from a licensed dispensary, technically. Vaping. Vaping can be really effective since it bypasses the intestines, going straight through the lung into the bloodstream, which is great, but CBD vapes, they're dangerous. And if you haven't paid attention to the media the last 6 months or so, the ingredients that companies are using to make these vape cartridges, the vape oil the vape pens people are smoking, they are linking to fatal lung diseases. So definitely be careful if you are choosing the vape option, and make sure that you are also going to a licensed dispensary for this type of product. Anything you purchase CBD-wise, you want to make sure it's tested. But even though there are no regulations for the CBD industry specifically, the cannabis side does have regulations, and they often do have pure CBD products, which are regulated by these regulations. So they are the safest products to use if you choose to go with edibles or vaping. But in my opinion, the best and most effective CBD product to use for anxiety is CBD oil. And this is the CBD oil, the drops, the whatever you've heard it as, that you put under the tongue. They call that sublingually. And when you apply CBD sublingually, it allows the oil to absorb through your sublingual gland directly into your bloodstream. So that is why they tell you to hold it there for, I like to say, a minute or longer, to absorb as much as you can. And then you would swallow the remaining, which will go down your intestines. And it's similar to edibles. You know, you can lose some of that to your intestines. So that's the importance of putting it under your tongue. Topicals, a lot of research will say don't use topicals for anxiety. And it really is not the most effective way to treat anxiety. But why I want to add it in here is because we talked about causes of anxiety, which could be from pain. So if you're experiencing pain that is causing anxiety, a topical can help the pain, which overall will help your anxiety if it's directly related to that pain. We talked about topicals more in episode 4, So if you want to get more in depth into that, take a listen to that episode. So bottom line, my recommendation when using CBD for anxiety is a CBD oil product. The CBD tincture, CBD drops, whatever you know it as. Make sure that you know what you're taking though. Using the right kind of CBD is really important. And there are lab test results that you can view for these companies, like I said. So just make sure you're checking those out. Quartz Trading Co. offers two kinds of oils. There's pure CBD oil, which ranges in 500 up to 1,500 milligrams per bottle. And there are the full spectrum oil tinctures, which range from 1,000 milligrams to 2,500 milligrams. Note that the difference is one compound, CBD, or a full spectrum of compounds, which this includes a very slight amount of THC. That's the full spectrum. And in my experience, if you are on any pain medications, definitely first consult your pain physician because your pain management doctor, because they do have guidelines sometimes, and it is a caution that I like to give people. You know, you can test positive for THC if you are using full spectrum CBD oil daily. So just make sure you talk to your doctor if you're on medications, especially pain medications. But ultimately, this helps determine which CBD product you should be using, whether it be a pure CBD or a full spectrum. Because people, you know, when you're buying this from a person, this person should be asking you, because if you use cannabis, if you use any sort of pain medications, a full spectrum product might be better for you because you're already kind of used to these interactions inside of your body. And if you're concerned about a drug test, then definitely think about it first, because like I said, you know, you can test positive. Be careful and just be aware of that part. What you guys should know about full spectrum is that it contains that small bit of THC, but the THC is often the culprit for paranoia. So if you don't use pain medications, if you don't use cannabis, you're not sure, maybe you've never used cannabis, or maybe you have, you know, judge yourself accordingly, because that could cause more anxiety. And if you know you're sensitive to THC because you've had some horrific experience as a teenager and you have anxiety from that, then, you know, definitely stick to a pure CBD tincture, because you don't want to bring on more paranoia, more anxiety, trying to get rid of the anxiety. And I think that happens a lot because people just don't know. And so hopefully this is helping you. If you do have a full spectrum product at home already and you're using it for anxiety, or want to, or decide you want to try it because it does have a lot more benefits, what I can tell you is if you do experience any sort of paranoia or high feeling from it, it is super mild and it goes away really, really fast, and you will be fine. It will not hurt your brain. It will not hurt you. It's just an experience that can trigger some things for people. So just be conscious and know if this happens to you, it's going to be okay. A matter of minutes, honestly. So next, this is a big question. CBD doses. How much CBD should I take for anxiety? This can be challenging to just blatantly answer for somebody, because there are no actual guidelines and the FDA is still learning about CBD. So without those guidelines, what I can tell you is CBD is not for everyone. And there's also no way to tell where you fall in that. But since there are no life-endangering side effects, it is definitely worth an experiment if you are experiencing signs of anxiety, especially in times like today. So here are some things to take into consideration when you are trying to find a dosage for yourself. Your body weight, your metabolism rate, the concentration of the CBD, and the severity of your anxiety. And then also if you take pain meds or use cannabis. In my experience, a dose of CBD for an average person, it can range between 5 to 50 milligrams. And I know that's a really large range, but